There are moments in a believer's life when noise surrounds them opinions, pressures, fear, expectations, and uncertainty. The world is loud, circumstances shout, people speak, thoughts argue. But there comes a sacred moment when God decides to speak. And when God speaks, it is not just another voice added to the noise. When God speaks, heaven releases an echo so powerful that the world must fall silent. When God speaks, his voice is not an opinion, and it is not a suggestion. It is an authority that carries the power to create realities that did not previously exist. Divine speech is not dependent on circumstances, resources, or human agreement. The moment God releases a word, that word carries within it the ability to produce what it declares. This is why creation itself responds to God's voice. Darkness did not argue when light was commanded. Chaos did not resist when order was spoken. Everything obeyed because the voice that spoke was supreme. Many people struggle not because God is silent, but because they underestimate the weight of his words. They treat divine instruction casually, expecting instant results without understanding that every word from God initiates a process. When God speaks, his word begins to work, even when nothing appears to change outwardly. The seed may be hidden under the soil, but life has already begun. To doubt God's word because results are not immediate is to misunderstand how divine authority operates. God's word is effective the moment it is released, not the moment it is visible. Fear loses its strength when God speaks. Fear survives on uncertainty, but the voice of God brings clarity and assurance. Even when the instruction seems challenging or unfamiliar, the authority behind it guarantees success. This is why people who truly hear God can move forward with confidence even when logic fails them. They are not driven by what they see. They are sustained by what they have heard. One word from God can silence years of anxiety because divine speech replaces questions with conviction. The authority of God's voice also establishes identity and purpose. Many people search for validation from the world because they have not fully embraced what God has spoken concerning them. When God speaks over a life, he defines it. No label from society can override divine definition. When God calls, he empowers. When God declares, he sustains. Opposition may arise, but opposition never has the final say when God has spoken. His word stands firm even when everything else shakes. God's voice is not limited by human weakness. He often speaks to people who feel unqualified, unprepared, and unsure. This is intentional because the power is never in the vessel. It is in the word. When God speaks through fragile people, his glory becomes undeniable. Success that comes from obedience to divine instruction cannot be credited to human strength. It is evident that God has spoken and heaven has backed his word. To honor God's voice is to align with his authority. Obedience is not merely an act of discipline, it is an expression of trust in the power behind his words. Delayed obedience weakens impact, but immediate obedience activates results. When a person moves in response to God's voice, even small steps carry supernatural weight. What seems insignificant becomes powerful because it is fueled by divine authority. When God speaks, his word continues to echo through time. Circumstances may change, seasons may shift, and people may come and go. But his word remains alive. It will accomplish what it was sent to do. Heaven never forgets a word spoken by God, and the earth must eventually respond. Silence is not the absence of activity. It is the posture of readiness. In a world filled with constant noise, speed, and distraction, the ability to be still has become rare, yet it remains essential for spiritual sensitivity. Many voices compete for attention. Circumstances demand reactions, emotions seek expression, and opinions push for agreement. Yet divine communication is often released in moments when the heart is quiet enough to perceive it. Silence becomes the environment where deeper understanding is formed. Inner noise is more dangerous than outer noise. A person can withdraw from crowds, yet remain restless within. Thoughts race, fears rehearse past failures, and expectations of disappointment echo endlessly. In such a state, even when truth is present, it cannot be received clearly. Silence requires the discipline of laying down internal arguments and choosing trust over control. This is not weakness, it is surrender. When the heart slows down, perception sharpens. Silence also reveals hunger. Those who truly desire direction are willing to wait. Waiting is not wasted time, it is preparation. In moments of stillness, motives are refined and intentions are purified. Impatience often pushes people to act prematurely, mistaking activity for progress. But silence teaches discernment. It allows a person to distinguish between emotional impulses and divine direction. Many costly mistakes could be avoided if decisions were made from a place of quiet assurance rather than hurried pressure. Stillness invites alignment. When the noise settles, the heart begins to recognize what truly matters. Priorities adjust, burdens lift, and focus returns. Silence creates space for conviction, not condemnation. It brings awareness without confusion. In quiet moments, strength is renewed and clarity emerges naturally. This is why moments of withdrawal often precede significant breakthroughs. Silence prepares the soul for responsibility. There is also a humility in silence. It acknowledges that not everything needs a response, and not every battle requires a reaction. Strength is not always loud. Wisdom often speaks softly. Those who master silence gain authority in speech, because their words carry weight. When a person learns to listen deeply, their actions become precise. Silence trains the heart to recognize timing, and timing determines impact. The world celebrates constant expression, but transformation is birthed in stillness. Growth happens in unseen places. Just as roots develop underground before a tree becomes visible, inner formation occurs in quiet seasons. Silence shapes character, deepens conviction, and builds resilience. What is formed in silence can withstand pressure in public. Silence also protects direction. Not every insight needs to be shared, and not every vision requires immediate explanation. Some instructions are fragile in their early stages and must be guarded. Silence allows what is received to mature. It prevents unnecessary interference and preserves focus. Those who rush to speak often dilute what they have received, but those who wait allow depth to form. In silence, the heart learns to trust. Control is released, and peace settles. It becomes clear that guidance does not come from striving, but from attentiveness. Silence is not empty, it is full of potential. It is the doorway through which clarity, strength, and direction enter. Direction is one of the greatest needs of the human heart. Many people are not afraid of effort. They are afraid of wasting their effort. Confusion drains strength because it keeps the mind divided and the heart uncertain. When clarity is absent, even simple steps feel heavy. Yet true direction does not overwhelm with details. It simplifies. It brings peace, not pressure. It may not answer every question, but it settles the most important one: what to do next. Divine direction rarely comes as a full map. It comes as a step. This protects the heart from pride and teaches dependence. If everything were revealed at once, trust would be replaced by confidence in information rather than confidence in guidance. Direction unfolds progressively so that obedience becomes a daily posture, not a one-time decision. Each step taken in faith prepares the capacity to receive the next instruction. Clarity does not always mean ease. Sometimes the path forward challenges comfort and stretches faith. Yet even when the instruction feels demanding, it carries an inner assurance that removes confusion. This assurance becomes an anchor during moments of resistance or delay. A person who has received clear direction can endure uncertainty around them because certainty lives within them. External chaos loses its power when internal clarity is established. Many people delay movement because they are waiting for perfect conditions. But direction is not dependent on conditions, it creates them. Once clarity is received, movement activates provision, alignment, and support that were not visible before. Waiting for everything to make sense before acting often leads to stagnation. Direction demands courage more than certainty. The willingness to take the next step unlocks momentum. Direction also brings focus. Distractions lose their attraction when purpose becomes clear. Energy is no longer scattered because intention has been defined. This focus produces efficiency and peace. A person walking in clear direction may appear slower than others, but their progress is intentional. They are not competing, they are aligned. Alignment removes the pressure to imitate and replaces it with confidence in one's path. Obedience to direction sharpens sensitivity. Each act of obedience strengthens discernment, making future instructions clearer. Disobedience, however, dulls perception and increases confusion. Direction is sustained through responsiveness. Small acts of obedience matter because they preserve clarity. Neglecting simple instructions often leads to unnecessary complications. Precision in response keeps the path straight. Direction does not eliminate challenges, but it redefines them. Difficulties become confirmations rather than contradictions. Resistance is no longer interpreted as failure, but as evidence of movement. When direction is clear, setbacks are processed with wisdom instead of panic. The heart remains steady because it understands that opposition does not cancel purpose. Clarity also produces peace in waiting. There are moments when the instruction is to pause, and this too requires trust. Stillness, when directed, is as powerful as movement. Direction teaches when to act and when to wait. Both are forms of obedience. Knowing the difference prevents burnout and frustration. True direction simplifies life. It narrows choices, reduces anxiety, and strengthens resolve. It does not explain everything, but it explains enough. And that is sufficient. When clarity is present, the next step becomes possible, and possibility fuels progress. When a divine word is released, opposition immediately loses its authority. Resistance may still appear, but its power is broken because it no longer controls the outcome. Many people confuse the presence of opposition with the absence of approval, but this is a misunderstanding. Opposition often arises precisely because something significant has been set in motion. What matters is not whether resistance exists, but whether it has the right to decide the final result. Once a divine word is spoken, that right is removed. Human opinions can be loud, but they are temporary. Systems may resist, circumstances may delay, and people may doubt. Yet none of these have the power to cancel what has been divinely declared. Opposition thrives on fear and uncertainty, but a divine word replaces fear with assurance. Even when progress seems slow, there is a quiet confidence that sustains endurance. This confidence does not come from visible evidence, but from inner certainty that the outcome is settled. Opposition often tests conviction. It exposes whether belief is rooted in truth or emotion. When conviction is shallow, resistance causes retreat. But when conviction is deep, resistance produces strength. This is why challenges do not destroy those who are anchored in a divine word. They refine them. Pressure reveals stability. The more resistance pushes, the clearer it becomes that the foundation is not human effort, but divine authority. Time itself submits to divine instruction. Delays may occur, but delay is not denial. What is spoken may unfold through seasons, processes, and preparation, yet it is never forgotten. Time becomes a servant, not a barrier. Even when it seems as though nothing is changing, alignment is happening beneath the surface. Situations are shifting, people are being positioned, and conditions are adjusting. Opposition may slow visibility, but it cannot stop fulfillment. Systems and structures may appear unmovable, but they respond when the moment arrives. Doors that resisted effort open effortlessly when alignment is complete. What could not be forced becomes easy. This is because fulfillment is not achieved by struggle alone, but by authority. When authority is present, effort is multiplied. Results come with less strain because resistance has lost its grip. Opposition also reveals dependence. It reminds the heart that strength does not come from numbers, influence, or approval. When support fades and voices grow quiet, reliance deepens. This dependence produces resilience. Instead of panic, there is patience. Instead of despair, there is expectation. Opposition no longer intimidates. It becomes familiar territory where faith proves its strength. Even failure loses its finality. Mistakes may occur, but they do not define the ending. Correction becomes possible because the destination remains intact. Opposition cannot rewrite purpose. It can only challenge the journey. And even then, the journey adjusts without losing direction. What seems like a setback becomes a lesson, and lessons become tools for growth. In the end, opposition is silenced not by arguments, force, or explanation, but by outcome. Results speak louder than resistance ever could. When fulfillment arrives, opposition fades into irrelevance. What once looked impossible becomes evidence that a higher authority was at work all along. Once a divine word has been released, the conclusion is no longer a question. The process may be complex, but the result is certain. God does not speak casually. His words are not empty sounds. Every time God speaks, creation responds. Light appeared because God spoke. Order was established because God spoke. Destiny was activated because God spoke. And even today, one word from God can silence years of confusion, struggle, and delay. Many people are tired not because life is heavy, but because they are listening to too many voices while ignoring the one voice that brings rest. There is a difference between information and revelation. Information informs the mind, but revelation transforms the spirit. You can hear many sermons, read many books, and receive many opinions, yet remain unchanged until God speaks directly to you. When God speaks, fear loses its authority. When God speaks, anxiety bows. When God speaks, doors that resisted strength open effortlessly. This is because divine speech carries power, not just instruction. Often, before God speaks, He demands silence, not just around you, but within you. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is readiness. Many cannot hear God because their hearts are too crowded. God is not competing with noise. He waits for hunger. He waits for reverence. He waits for a heart that says, "Lord, speak, for your servant is listening." When you learn to be still, you position yourself to hear what others miss. When God speaks, He may not explain everything, but He will give you direction. He may not reveal the whole journey, but He will give you the next step. His voice brings clarity in confusion, strength in weakness, and peace in chaos. One instruction from God is more valuable than 1,000 strategies from men. Obedience to one divine word can compress years of struggle into moments of breakthrough. Do not be discouraged if the world does not understand what God has spoken to you. When God speaks, He often speaks in ways that offend logic but honor faith. The world may laugh, doubt, or resist, but it does not matter. Once God has spoken, time must cooperate, systems must align, and outcomes must change. Heaven backs every word God releases. Tonight, let your spirit be quiet. Lay down the noise of comparison, fear, and impatience. Create space for God, because when God speaks, you will not need to shout to be heard. His word will speak for you. His word will fight for you. And His word will echo through your life until every opposing voice is silenced. This message reminds us that life does not change because the world becomes quieter. Life changes because we learn to recognize and respond to a higher voice. In the midst of noise, pressure, and uncertainty, there is a call to return to stillness, clarity, and trust. When the heart becomes attentive, direction becomes simple. When direction is embraced, courage is released. And when courage is sustained, resistance loses its power. The journey may involve silence, waiting, and moments of misunderstanding. But none of these are wasted. Every quiet season prepares strength. Every clear instruction produces alignment. Every step taken in obedience builds momentum. What begins as a whisper becomes an echo that reshapes outcomes, influences decisions, and settles fear. This is an invitation to stop striving for control and start walking in assurance, to lay down the need for constant explanation and hold firmly to conviction. What has been spoken carries authority beyond time, beyond systems, and beyond opposition. The world may remain loud, but it no longer has the final word. When that voice has spoken, peace becomes possible, focus becomes natural, and endurance becomes effortless. The process may unfold gradually, but the result is secure. And in the end, it will be clear that what guided the journey was not noise, pressure, or fear, but a word powerful enough to silence everything else.